Hello and welcome, everyone. So glad to have all of you here. Looking forward to our conversation today. We have a quick 30 minutes. I do want to invite you as we go through to number one, feel free to unmute if you want to and come in live and ask a question, add a comment, share an insight, whatever it is. Or alternatively, if you prefer, typing in the chat box. We'll record this, we'll put it on YouTube, get it out there and share it with all of you so that you can come back to it and review it again. In terms of where we're going with the conversation, here's our game plan. We'll define coaching. To set it up, we'll talk about leadership and coaching for leaders. We'll talk about leadership development, coaching as a skill set, coaching as a professional service for leaders, planning and implementation, and then, of course, your application of the insights from today, a quick look at the resources available to you, and for those of you that want to hang around, Q&A time. So starting with the definition of coaching, and this comes from the ICF. Whatever type of coaching you're talking about, it's a strategic partnership. Now, I think this is significant both in terms of what coaching is and coaching as a leadership skill. So the word partnership, instead of a coach being the expert or the one who knows the answer, a coach comes into that engagement as a partner. And it goes on to say in the definition, the coach empowers the client so that they clarify their own goals, create their own action plans, figure out how to move past obstacles and achieve what they want. Now take that same concept and apply it in leadership. When you have a leader who is more of a dictator telling people what to do, they're getting less of a following, they're getting less engagement. And so the concept of a leader truly partnering with the people on their team, so those people clarify, create, move past obstacles and achieve, is smart. It makes a lot of sense. So coaching as a service for leaders, well, it's a service and it's a skill set. When we coach leaders in the workplace, it creates awareness of their own behaviors, what they're doing, their skill set, and the impact they have on their team. It's a space for them to explore the opportunities they want or have, the challenges they're facing, the resources that are available. And of course, coaches support the leaders in developing strategies and defining actions. So it's a valuable, incredibly valuable skill set. I think I'm preaching to the choir on that one. We all know it. We've all done the research. The average ROI on coaching is over 600%. And there's a reason for what it does. Now, let's talk about leadership and then look at how coaching makes sense for leaders. So leadership is the person who's defining the vision, giving that direction. And I love this one, inspiring followers. You can't force somebody to follow you and expect that to be effective in the long term. So it's inspiring them, making sure the resources are available, motivating action, coordinating efforts, and acting decisively. And in many parts, it's modeling that. Now, in action, what does that mean? Leadership can be delegated. True leadership is earned. So yes, leaders define the vision and objectives. Even better is when a leader engages their people on the team in developing, refining the vision and the objectives. Leaders inspire others to follow. So take a moment and think about what that is. What leader has inspired you to follow them? And what is it that they did that inspired you to follow them? So I'd love it if somebody wants to unmute and share a thought there or type it in the chat box. What leader has inspired you to follow them? And what did they do that inspired you for that? Give you hopefully a moment while you're thinking. Feel free to unmute. Feel free to type in the chat box. It'd be great to get some insights from the rest of you that are here. In the meantime, I'll throw up a few more bullet points. So leaders frame the process, and here's the big one. Leaders are responsible for the outcome. And what that means sometimes is they're afraid of truly inspiring other people and empowering them to figure it out because they're the ones who are responsible. At the same time, we know the best way to meet those objectives is exactly that. Okay, so some of you have given your answers. So what is it that leaders do that inspire you? They live their words. They lead by example. They're congruent. Yeah, absolutely. I think leaders are aware that, hey, their job in many ways is to support the people on the team, that's a primary function of what they do. And they recognize how significant it is when they empower people. So taking these concepts, let's keep going. A definition of leadership development. So teaching or enhancing leadership skills, including communication, motivation, trustworthiness, creativity, being proactive, providing feedback, and accountability. Now, it continues. There's more to it. Leadership development is a planned effort, and it also happens naturally. It includes defining objectives, assessing skill gaps, planning the learning. It may include mentoring, training, or stretch assignments. Leaders are developed through experience and education. Now, as I reflect on the content of these last two slides, I think, okay, yeah, we're totally missing something. There's a big gap here. So let's think about it this way. Coaching, it's a professional service for leaders. It's advanced development for advanced results. So what does that tell us? Well, we know the ROI is there. For leaders, it's an opportunity for them to think out loud, to have that thinking challenged and expanded for greater awareness. It creates the space for them to develop strategies and action steps. It provides accountability. Above and beyond that, think about it this way. Coaching models behaviors that serve leaders to have in place when they are working, when they are with people on their team. So coaching is developing a coaching skill set at the same time it's serving the leader in these other ways. Give me your thoughts, your reactions to that statement. I want to hear what that means to you when you hear, okay, if I'm coaching a leader, I'm serving them by modeling behaviors that are effective with their people. What are you thinking? Yeah, I'm getting a lot of quiet there. Okay, so let's keep going. Coaching is a skill set for leaders. When we think about coaching for coaches and being a coach and learning coaching, we think about learning the core competencies, and these come from the International Coach Federation. So that's an essential part of what it is that we do. Well, increasingly, coaching is seen as a whole, is seen as a core competency for somebody in a leadership role. So very specifically, Forbes magazine, more and more companies realize the benefits of hiring a coach. They also realize the benefits incorporating a coaching methodology into the management style of their leaders. So we're getting that recognition. Talent management and HR, whether you're a manager developing your people, developing yourself, building a career, one of the key ways you can have a positive impact on the business is by operating more as a coach than as a manager. So think back. When we started, we talked about coaching and leadership development. How is coaching part of leadership development? It's part as the service of providing coaching to the leaders, and part of it is the leaders themselves learning how to be a coach. Because when leaders are coaches, they get better results. There's more. Biz Library. While there are other important leadership skills and competencies, coaching is central to improving the performance of entire teams. I love this one. Organizations with senior leaders who coach effectively and frequently improve their business results by 21% as compared to those who never coach. So look at that, 21% improvement in the results when senior leaders use coaching. Now, of course, one of the big challenges in organizations is understanding the difference between being a coach, being a leader, being a mentor, the various roles. Now, many of you have heard my paradox of coaching. For those of you who haven't, the paradox of coaching is this. Coaching is a skill set that can be used in many different roles. It can be used when you're a mental health professional. It can be used when you're a leader. It can be used when you're a consultant. It can be used as a parent or a grandparent. It can be used by people in all different capacities. The paradox being that being a mental health professional, being a leader, the skill sets involved there are not something we use as a coach. And so ultimately, it's how do we differentiate it? So if somebody is unclear on the difference between a leader and a coach, or some of the other capacities, have a conversation. Someone who is a mentor passes on their wisdom and experience. There's tremendous value in that. Many organizations are talking about the baby boomers retiring out, losing all kinds of talent and knowledge. It's smart to have people mentor others while they're there so that they do pass on that wisdom. They also will give advice to people who are coming up in the organization. They help them make connections throughout the organization. And it's an incredibly valuable role in service. Now, do mentors use coaching skills? Yes, absolutely. Are coaches also mentors? Not if they're coaching. So there's a difference. Managing. A manager has responsibility for giving direction and for evaluating performance. Do managers use coaching as a skill set? Absolutely. Think about the difference in a conversation with somebody on the team. If you're the manager and the only thing you do is tell them how you think they're performing, are they really engaged in the conversation? Of course not. Alternatively, when you're the manager and you ask the person on your team, what are you doing well? Where are your challenges? What do you want to work on improving? And you empower them to identify it for themselves and then add feedback, you're changing the outcome of that conversation. So the more the manager is applying the coaching skill set in their conversations, the more effective they are as the manager. Think about consulting. And I know several of you also do consulting. A consultant comes in, they assess the situation, they provide expert advice. And have you done the research on how effective it is? Because ultimately, what often happens is a consultant identifies the issues, gives the solutions and the answers, and then they're gone, and the organization fails to implement what was provided. Well, of course. What's the reason they failed to implement? It wasn't their idea. They weren't engaged in the process, and they were not engaged in the solution. And without their engagement and involvement in the solution, they have zero ownership and they have zero motivation for following through. So, coaching when you're a consultant, oh, wow. What an opportunity. Think about it as a package. If you're going to go into an organization, and by the way, some of you also train, start with identifying what the challenges are, what the gaps are. And one example is the performance gap indicator tool. You all have access to it on the assessment login page. It's this fabulous tool where the people in the organization fill out the assessment, and then you pull together a report that tells you where the gaps are in organizational performance. Well, now you've got an idea of what the gaps are, and you come in and you can look at how are you going to meet their need? How are you going to fill the gaps that they have? So sometimes you put together your package. It may include training. Gosh, we're identifying there's a basic lack of knowledge in certain areas. It may include consulting. There's a need for some expert insight and advice. And ideally, it then also includes coaching. And in that order, by the way, because if you start in a different order, you'll devalue anything that's happening in the process. So when you go into an organization, you identify what the gaps are, and then you look at how are we going to fill the gaps and tailor it specifically to that organization and what's going on for them. Number one, you're serving them better. And number two, as a coach, yes, there may be a time when your consulting services are of value, and absolutely there's a time when your coaching services are of value. It's after the consulting, because now that this organization has that expert advice from you as a consultant, you step into your coaching role, and it's about, okay, what are your thoughts on that information? What's your application for it? What do you want to use? What do you want to change? How are you going to use it? How are you going to change it? And you support them in making it work. Now, when someone is a leader, yes, they're sharing their vision, they're pushing for an inspiring action, they're making decisions. Now, does a coach do that? No. The coach is asking the questions and putting the other person in charge. Now, how does that apply with a leader? Because a leader who uses coaching skills is more effective. Very specifically, they engage their people in, hey, what is the meaning of the vision if it's already in place? How does that apply for you? Or if they're developing or refining the vision, they get the input of the people on their team and they use their coaching to ask those questions. In terms of pushing for and inspiring actions, well, think about it. When you ask people, what are you going to do to get there? And they figure it out, that's when they own it and they follow through. And so, yes, you're pushing with the asking and you're inspiring because they're figuring it out. Is a leader making decisions? Absolutely. Coaching as a skill set helps there too. It helps as a service because the coach is challenging and expanding the thinking around those decisions. As a skill set for the leader, when they learn coaching, they learn to challenge and expand their own thinking as well. And so it makes a lot of sense. Coaching. We're partnering, we empower the client, we support them in exploring their possibilities, planning how they're going to move past their challenges, developing their own strategies, creating their own action plan, and managing their accountability. So what does that tell you? Well, pause, think about it. It's obvious how coaching is a skill set that helps in every other role we've listed here. It's also clear how it's completely different, because in the role of coach, we are not the expert. We are not the ones with the answer. We are the ones putting the other person in charge of finding the answer. And we partner with them to do that. So, skill set that serves in other capacities, and it's a skill set in terms of providing the service to people in those other capacities. looking for thoughts or questions from you, throwing out a lot of things. What's this bringing up for you? And as you're thinking about that, hopefully getting ready to type in, think about how you apply this in what you do. Coaching is a service that develops leaders, and coaching is a skill set that's expected of leaders. So it's for and of both at the same time. Thoughts, comments, or questions, everybody? So we've got a quiet group today. At this point, I've got a couple minutes left of information in terms of just the review of resources. So my question to all of you is, what additional insights do you want to share? Questions, thoughts, ideas? What do you want to talk about in terms of coaching as a service for and skill set of leaders? And Anela, thanks for your comment on it being a good review. I know you have a ton of expertise in this area. I'd love to hear your thoughts or insights. If you want to unmute and come in live and say something, if you want to type it in, it'd be fun to engage you in a conversation.
Hi there. How are you today?
Doing great. How are you?
Putting me on the spot here.
Hey, I know you can handle it. You have so much expertise in this.
So I love that you went back over this, and that's why I signed up for it, because it's always good to have a review like this, because right now I am coaching an individual that is not happy in their particular job. And while I'm sitting there, I am really, telling myself, I can't tell this person that it's time to leave because they're miserable. I have to walk the journey with them so that they can decide for themselves that it's time to walk away. And so I love that you talked about that. It's that space that you're inspiring, that you're holding steady with the individual, because you're truly just a partner with that individual. So that's what I'll add to it.
Yeah. Oh, and I love the idea of coaching somebody in that, because you have the opportunity to literally ask them, okay, so if you stay exactly where you're at, describe the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years of what's going on in your world. And if you do something different, what are the possibilities? And describe what it looks like in a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years for each of those possibilities. And give them a way to consider all the different options.
Absolutely. And I love that, because then it puts them in the driver's seat to look ahead and say that it's not going to look any different than where I am today, because today I am miserable. So let me look at an alternative, but they have to decide that for themselves. I love that question. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a fun one.
Yes, because that's the meeting for tomorrow morning, because we got to move this thing.
I love it. I love it. I think Juan Carlos is coming in too. Go ahead, Juan Carlos.
Hi, Kathy. Very, very good talk. It's always refreshing to get back to the basics and remind ourselves what is coaching in comparison to those other tools that we have to develop leadership and to bring results to our clients. So perhaps a question here is, based upon your experience, how do you combine and what are the tips that you will recommend on when to use mentoring, when to use coaching, and how to combine those if there is a situation that may require both tools, obviously at different times?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The first step to me seems to be really evaluating, hey, where are things at? What's going on? Where do they want to get to? And then looking at, okay, How does mentoring serve that? How does it get in the way? How does coaching serve that? How does it get in the way? What are the gaps, and what are the tools or methodologies that are going to bridge those gaps? And it goes back to, it may be you discover, okay, training makes sense. It's going to be important to provide training, and here's the reason. Or it may be, okay, we're really looking for wisdom from within the organization to be passed on to these people. Let's set up the mentoring side of things. It may be consulting, the outside expert coming in and providing advice. Now, I think what's most significant here is, number one, you evaluate based on that organization. It is not a one size fits all. It's really got to be what's going on and what's going to serve them. I think number two, it's looking at the order in which services are provided. If training is going to be one of the options, it should be the first option. It's providing information. Mentoring or consulting are going to be one of the options. They come next, because that's giving advice and passing on wisdom and experience. If coaching is going to be one of the options, it's the last option. Back to, that's your advanced development for advanced results. Because if we start with coaching and then we switch to consulting or mentoring, we're saying, okay, yeah, you came up with some ideas in the coaching, and now I'm going to devalue them by giving you the ideas. And so the order in which you provide the services, I think, is really significant. So tailoring to them and being intentional with which service in which order.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Glad for that. Okay. Recognizing we have just a few minutes. And Anello, thanks for your comment. I appreciate that. I'm so glad it was helpful. So resources, of course, you're familiar with most of these. Just want to throw them out there. Tap the International Coach Federation. If you're a member, they have wonderful communities of practice where you can attend free programs all year long, and they're fabulous. They have the conferences they do. And of course, for those of us putting ourselves out there as a coach, becoming a member of the ICF is really just a basic in terms of where the profession is today. Being a member of the ICF is the minimum as far as a standard for calling yourself a coach. Of course, love that you come through training at the Center for Coaching Certification, and we'd love to be available for you to continue your training, whether you're going to the ICF membership level or you want to earn a credential. We can support you through ACC, PCC, and MCC. And then, of course, Center for Coaching Solutions, where we're providing coaches to organizations when they want coaches, and supporting organizations in their programs. So the coachfederation.org is their website. Coach Cert for the Center for Coaching Certification. My apologies. To give you an idea of what's offered through Center for Coaching Solutions, we support coaching programs. We provide coaches. And by the way, those of you that have graduated with us, we do have an organization that's looking for coaches. We're collecting bios, and we're doing a orientation of that organization next week. So reach out if you haven't already done that. Of course, we do training programs inside of organizations, everything from an initial coaching skills for leaders all the way through certification programs, and we support organizations with the programs they're doing. We do have a blog with new articles every week. Love to have guest blogs. So if you want to start getting yourself out there and demonstrating your expertise, we'd love to post your guest blog and link back to you. We do publish a book once a year, and I know a couple of you have written chapters. Great opportunity in terms of writing for publication and in the process of working with other people on the team, etc. And love having you here in these free webinars. Keep coming back. We are available to you if you want a quick check-in via phone or email. The outsourcing services that we offer include coaching programs, training, and coaching. Those of you that are interested in some of those services, and if you want to have a conversation, learn more about it, or simply see if it's the right thing for you, definitely let me know. Happy to set up a 30-minute conversation. For everyone, be thinking for yourself, what is your action plan? We consistently recommend go back and review what you learned in your coach training. Be intentional with your skill application. If you just did the first level of training, come back and complete your coach training. Engage a coach. It's a smart thing for us coaches. And keep in mind, you have a lot of colleagues and you can do an exchange of services with each other. And then, of course, finding that coaching program support where it makes sense. I am happy to hang around and answer additional questions. I do want to say thank you to everyone for being here. I appreciate your time and interest. Do let us know what else we can do to be helpful. So thank you, everyone. Recognizing we have used our 30 minutes. I'm complete in terms of providing content. I'm simply here for whatever questions or additional thoughts you want to come in with. So thank you. And it seems like we're complete. So I'm going to say thank you again, and I'll go ahead and close out. Have a fabulous weekend and holiday, everyone.